שלום, והיום בפודקאסט על המשמעות יש לי את הזכות לארח את הרב מניס פרידמן ואת דוקטור אלעד בן אלול. הם כתבו את הספרים האלה בעברית, לא ביקשתי לבוא לעולם, ואת בחזרה לתלמוד הספר האחרון שיוצא, וגם יש להם מספר אירועים בארץ. And now we're going to move to English. So I have the pleasure of hosting Rabbi Friedman and Dr. Ben Elul. And we're going to discuss about the latest books that they published also in English and in Hebrew. And let's start with, I think, most interesting question about Judaism, rabbis. What is the connection, or what is the right relationships between rabbis and politics? Because we see in the Bible all the time that the Nevi'im, the prophets, are fighting with the kings and having all kind of discussions. And in the Galut, they stopped do the fighting because it was really dangerous for them.
It's a balance of power, right? You can't have too much power in one place. But that's a healthy thing. It's a good thing. Because, politics can make you a little bit extreme in one direction, and you need to be balanced.
So do you think that rabbis have something to do with politics? Should they talk about politics? Should they talk about national security or about some government issues?
Not pure politics, but where it becomes a question of halacha, where it's a question of pikuach nefesh and so on. Here the Torah has some very strong things to say, and you can't ignore it.
Such as?
So pure politics, no.
Yeah, but what does the Torah has to say about government, about national relations, about, human rights in a war?
Oh, there's a lot to be said. In fact, that's the third book that you just gave out, a book on how to win a war in the Jewish way, because there's a lot of confusion in the morality and in morality, of course, rabbis should have an opinion, because the Torah has an opinion.
Can you be more specific about what is the opinion of Torah about war, about how to win a war?
Let's pick an example. People are upset or worried or feeling guilty about proportional response. What is a proportional response? You did one damage to me, I'll do one damage to you. That is so childish and so immoral. Proportional response means proportional to making peace. What does it take to make peace? Which is the only reason for a war. If you can make peace by killing one enemy soldier, then you're not allowed to kill two. It's disproportionate. If you have to kill 100 to make peace, it's not disproportionate. That's how you make peace. If it's 1,000, 10,000, whatever it takes, that there should be peace for 40 years. On the other hand, if in order to reach peace, you have to kill 10,000, but you killed 1,000 and it seems like a lot to you, and you're starting to feel a little uncomfortable. We're killing too many people. Let's stop. That is so immoral, because the 1,000 people you killed for nothing.
And Dr. Ben Elul, did you manage to persuade someone or to have an impact with your latest book about the war?
Well, it came out in America in English, first of all, and actually we're launching it tomorrow in Israel in Hebrew. So I have to say it was more tensed to think about how to launch it here, because in here everything is more opinionated and we're in the ground, we're living the war, everything is very sensitive, very political. So we're going to have to see, but I think through clarity and by showing that you take in account all opinions and that you respect all opinions and that you're just here to bring the message of Torah, the message of God, then hopefully it should be a value to everyone. From my personal journey is that I started on a very like liberal, progressive kind of. These are the ideas that I was raised on in the institutions that I was educated in. So for me, I say if I was able to go through a process and think differently about things, it means everyone can.
Like your story, as I read, it starts in Africa, where people looked at you as a part of the chosen nation, and you started asking questions about why do Jews are so interested about all other cultures, but not about their culture, not about their inheritance.
Yeah.
So why?
He looks chosen.
Yeah, so why? No, but why, Rabbi Friedman? Why do Jews look at other cultures as, wow, it's nice, I want to learn, I want to travel, I want to
They invented
experience.
Anthropology, more or less.
Yeah, so...
all the pioneers of anthropology were like sons and grandchildren of rabbis.
So why do Jews are not interested in their inheritance?
Because we're so humble. We don't think we have anything special, that we're special. The world thinks we are, but we're afraid. Literally, we're afraid to be special. Because if we're special, they're going to hate us. Now they love us.
Yeah. But so why they hate us right now?
They hate us since Har Sinai. It's jealousy. And the jealousy can be helped, can be at least softened, if we were a little bit more devoted to teaching them. When you live in a ghetto just by yourself and for yourself, and yet you're the chosen people, something doesn't make sense. Right? So that bothers people, even good people. So I'm not going to justify or explain the vulgar anti-Semitism. They're just criminals and you have to beat them up. But even good people, decent people, they're a little confused. If you're chosen, look chosen, act chosen, behave chosen, then everything's great.
But I don't think that they choose the Jewish victims by the altitude or by their strictness in Jewish laws. They just find a Jew and commit.
Yeah, they're indiscriminate.
Yeah,
they're not too particular who they hate, but the discomfort is not with an individual Jew. It's with the concept of a chosen people. I think it's like a teacher in a classroom. If the teacher is teaching, everything makes sense. But if the teacher is sitting, like the other students, waiting for something to happen, then what are you doing here? And if you are a student, then why aren't you our age? And why don't you dress like us? Then why are you different? We are different, and we have to live that difference. Then everything makes sense.
And you teach like half of your viewers are Goyim, or from another nations, and half are Jewish.
I think more than half are not Jewish.
And what do you teach them? Like, what is your main goal for them? Like, halacha is for them? Like, the Jewish law is for them, or just the Torah, or just the prophets?
All the mitzvot ben Adam l'chavero applies to them too.
Like how I respect my father and mother, how I...
Tzedakah, gemilut chasadim. Yeah, all the law. In fact, all the mitzvot that make sense, that have a practical benefit, they should do them. We call it Sheva mitzvot, but there's much more than Sheva.
Yeah. And what about the religions? What about you met with lots of priests from Christianity and I guess from Islam too. What about what is the main goal or the purpose of Islam and Christianity?
My talking to them. My goal of talking to them.
What do you think
that
is the goal of their religions?
Oh, what it is now is not good. It's got to improve. The main message is stop using God to make yourself better. That's not Avodat Hashem. You're here to do something for God, not to hire God to be your bodyguard or your savior or your source of money and blessing. That's not nice. We're not looking to God to do us favors. We want to serve Him. Then the world would be a much nicer place.
We want to serve Him because He needs us, right?
He created the world for a purpose. The world should be what He wants it to be.
And the Torah is the guideline?
Yeah, exactly.
So, for people who don't know, the Torah has guidelines also for intimacy, also for the relations between the sexes. So, your latest book, or maybe before the latest, is Back to Innocence, or בחזרה לתמימות in Hebrew. And this is basically a guideline for how to be in intimacy or in sex relations or in a marriage, actually. So, what do we do wrong right now, and what can we do better?
Wow. So the book really starts with a lot of definitions, because the first thing is that we have our definitions wrong. So it opens by explaining gender again. So part of the journey back to innocence is back to knowing your gender and what it means, and connecting it to your purpose, to your life's purpose. So by reintroducing terms such as what is a man and what is a woman, very basic questions that the answers for them are no longer obvious, that's the first steps. And then we continue to, how do you meet your partner, your soulmate? What do you look for? That's also very confused, because we're kind of contaminated by ideas from Hollywood and Western culture, and we're looking for the wrong things, and we end up really frustrated. And then only later on in the book, it really goes into the bedroom and how many false expectations we bring there, and how much tension we bring to this place that is unnecessary. And we create unhealthy space there. And it's really about trying to clearing away foreign ideas. Someone told me, you keep saying what not to add, what not to do, what this. You didn't say what to do. But the thing is that what we explain is that intimacy is really what's left after you manage to remove everything else.
Like Shabbat, when everything or almost everything that we do in the day-to-day is prohibited, and then out of this vacuum, you can find something else. You can find intimate conversations. You can find time to study without the cell phone. You can find a lot of things that maybe they are the goal of Shabbat. And
another great example that the Rabbi Manis gives is in prayer. We are actually establishing intimacy with God. But the thing is that you bring in things. So you have this thing you need to do afterwards, or the thing that annoyed you before, or that noise that is buzzing, or the air conditioner is too warm or too cold, or your itch, anything that is in the way. But when is the good prayer that we were really, wow, that was a really good prayer? When there was nothing. When there was nothing interrupting the prayer, it happened. Everything that interrupts the prayer is not about how to pray well. It's about how to remove the interruptions to the prayer. Actually, in the beginning of the book, I think it's in the introduction, you write about something very naive or maybe innocent, that you had the feeling that when you were a kid that you want to get married, you want to have children, and this innocence got wiped out by the culture. And I think that this is a really great point that you point there.
I think that a lot of people can really see themselves in this situation, that someone hurt them or someone killed the innocents. And actually, this point, it's really hard to understand why we have this point. We know what's good, what's bad when we're small, and we have good dreams, I think, most of the time. And the culture that we built is so bad for us.
Well, hurt, abuse can kill your innocence, but a bad hashkafa, bad advice, bad knowledge can kill it even worse. And one of those ideas that kills it is equality. Men and women are the same. Men and women want the same thing. It's all the same. That is so poison. Of course not. Of course not. Because if you want the same thing, you'll never get along. If you're fighting over the same dollar, you'll never get along. Men and women marry each other because they need different things. So they're not fighting.
So what do women want?
Well, the key words, according to the Torah, a man wants to be mashpia, a woman wants to be mekabel. There's no fight. You be mekabel, I'll be mashpia. Peace on earth. But if we both want to be mashpia, it's not going to be pretty. And if we both want to be mekabel, nothing is going to happen.
But we know how much women want to do things, want the house to be like this, want to educate the children, want
a husband
to give an advice for the husband or an order sometimes. So they are mashpia or mekabel.
Well, it's very easy to play the other role. If a man is lazy, he becomes the mekabel. But it's not healthy. So knowing what is a mashpia, which is not simple. Mashpia doesn't mean the boss. And mekabel doesn't mean you just sit and wait.
Or a servant.
Or that's certainly. So that's what the book really has to clarify, because the idea that we're equal is just as bad as the old idea that women are property of the husband.
So what is to be a mashpia? If you can elaborate.
Okay. The Torah says to Chava, after the Etz Hadas, El ishech chukosech. You're going to yearn, you're going to hunger for your husband. That's the nature of a mekabel. A mekabel means like a nurturer. If somebody comes into your life, into your space, they gain life. That's a mekabel. When you welcome someone into your life, you give life. That's how a woman produces a baby. It's not an active, aggressive activity. The baby develops, the baby grows, the baby is born, and the mother can sleep. But she's giving life. So a mekabel means giving life without being aggressive. A man, in order to give life, has to be aggressive. He has to go, make money, bring home some food. So the woman relies on the man, or the wife relies on the husband to allow her to nurture by taking the responsibilities off of her. So if she has to worry about paying bills, it's not good for the kids.
So if we have listeners that the woman is the bread maker, so what can they do?
if she is the bread maker, the breadwinner,
the breadwinner,
because of her talents, not because of her responsibility. It's his responsibility, but if she's better, he lets her do it. But if she doesn't want to anymore, she doesn't have to, because it's his responsibility. So the weight, the heaviness, is not on her. And she gets to use her talents. Look, in the old shtetl, the women were always the breadwinners. Right? The men sat and studied Torah, and the women were selling fish in the market, whatever. So that's not a male or female activity. It's the responsibility. So if a woman has a talent, she should certainly use it. But the obligation a man should take.
כמה מכם פנו אליי לגבי זה שהם עשו מנוי למידה, אבל לא קיבלו קישור לעל המשמעות פלוס. אז רציתי להבהיר את הדרגות של המנויים לאתר מידע. יש לנו מנוי ב-25 שקלים, המאפשר כניסה למפגש הזום השבועי ביום חמישי בשעה 9. מי שעושה מנוי ב-60 שקלים גם מקבל גישה לעל המשמעות פלוס. פודקאסט עם מעל 200 פרקים שאתם יכולים להאזין לו דרך נגן הפודקאסטים המועדף אליכם, ומי שעושה מנוי ב-120 שקלים גם חשוף לעל המשמעות פלוס, גם נכנס למפגשי הזום השבועיים, וגם חשוף לכל התוכן פרימיום שגדי טאוב ועקיבא ביגמן מפרסמים למנויים שלהם. אז אני כמובן ממליץ על 120 שקלים, ואפילו יותר למי שיכול, כדי לעזור לנו להפיק את הפודקאסט ולהשפיע על חייהם של אלפי אנשים. תודה רבה. Actually, we see it in a lot of situations where the husband loses his job. The respect and the love between the men and the women, or between the women towards the men, becomes something that in just one moment can be hurt, that can be diminished in a moment.
So again, that's from a bad assumption, a bad understanding. Whoever makes the money is the mashpia. Money is not masculine. Money is not feminine. So if a guy has a big job and he runs a big company and he's the CEO of the whole town, he's more of a man? No, he just has more money. And if a woman runs the company and becomes the big CEO, she's a better woman? No, she just has more money.
I heard Jordan Peterson says that the attractiveness of women is dependent upon how they look, by research, and it's something that is very basic, I think, for all of us. But the attractiveness of a man is not how he looks. It's about how much his friends or his colleagues appreciate him and see him as someone that is appreciated or respected. So how does those facts or those research connected to the Torah or to the things you write in this book?
I'm not sure Peterson is saying that as a nature or as a social development.
I think that like in today's culture, maybe.
Anthropologically, that's true.
Yeah, we should ask the doctor.
Yeah.
Anthropologically, nothing can be said about everyone. And the whole idea of anthropology is looking at context, cultural context. So like for me, when I was in West Africa, I saw completely different roles of men and women. I think in social psychology, which is what Jordan Peterson does, it's often assigning kind of like animalistic, natural instincts to behaviors and then analyzing things according to that. So that doesn't always go with what we say.
What do you think about it?
I think, like Rabbi Manis was saying, that one of the reasons that we lose our innocence and become confused is the idea of equality. For me, before it was the idea of equality, it was false stereotypical ideas about gender. So in a way, gender studies is very necessary because it deconstructs the false ideas about what is a man and what is a woman. And it says, who says? Why do you think so? This is culturally constructed. This is historical. This is political. That part of gender studies, I think, is very important because it kind of peels away those shallow, empty, and very suffocating ideas about so many men don't feel manly and so many women don't feel feminine because the message was given to them what it means to be manly. Just they can't work it out. When you come and you say a man is a giver, how can someone not suddenly relax and just say, okay, all I have to do is find my giving point, my influence point. That's all I have to do. Each man gives differently. Each man has a different thing to give. He gives himself and he's different. That's suddenly so relaxing. So in a way, gender studies, I don't know if they're going to like our book, but we have a lot in common because we're trying to kind of peel away those external, cultural, historical, political ideas about what is a man and woman and give something much more of the essence, of the soul, of the purpose of life.
So Medrash puts it very nicely. When Adam and Chava are thrown out of Gan Eden, she is cursed, right? There was a curse that you're going to yearn for your husband. The Medrash says God's curses are always blessings. And how is this a blessing? Because when men discover that a woman yearns and hungers for a husband, the men go looking for a wife. Not the wife has to go looking for men. So that is a perfect description. The woman hungers for a husband, and the husband is inspired to satisfy that hunger. So a real man, a macho man, is a man who feels a woman's hunger and has the confidence that he could give her what she needs. When you break that down, if you stop doing that, then marriage is impossible. So most of the modern studies or modern thoughts on gender are talking about single men and single women. It's a completely different story. If you're not relating to each other, be whatever you want. Who cares? But if you're going to be in a relationship male-female, well, then you got to know which is the female part and which is the male part.
So isn't it the only relationship by the Torah? Men and women?
Well, there's parents and children.
But you know what I mean? What is the right approach by the Torah towards LGBTQ and plus? Yeah.
See, all of that is a result of gender confusion. It's like if you want to get down to practical, why is pornography so damaging to men? Because a man's sexuality is the desire to satisfy, not to be satisfied. Pornography is, I want to be satisfied. Entertain me. That's not masculine. So if a man gets comfortable taking pleasure instead of giving pleasure, he stops being a man and he becomes emasculated. Now he can't function at all as a man. Now, if we knew that, we wouldn't mess around with the pornography, because we don't want to kill our nature. So anytime the man starts looking to be entertained or to be indulged, he stops being a real man. And then he can't function with a woman. That's why everybody's on Viagra.
But that point with the relationality is so important. It's amazing. Like everything that LGBT, everything that comes from, this is me on my own trying to explore me and define myself and understand myself. Whereas what we're saying is, if you want to discover your gender, it has to be discovered in relation to your wife or your husband. So you can never really meet your gender until you meet your wife or your husband. Isn't that that's amazing? So someone feels completely not manly all his life. When you find your wife, next to her, you will feel manly suddenly, because your manlyhood is not some independent, self-made definition. It's a relational definition. It's about giving to your wife. That's amazing, I think.
It's like a teenage girl who says, I'm not like my mother at all. So of course not, you're a teenager. So wait till you get married and you'll see how much you're like your mother.
Actually, there is a lot of stories about people who lost their father or mother. And you know, if your father died when you were 30 and now you're 35, you were like, I'm older than him. It can't be. I always look at him from beneath. I always look up to him. But why can't you find your masculinity, manhood, or your femininity by being next to your sister? Just with relationship with her, not why it has to be a woman that is your wife.
I think you might, and that's why halacha warns you from those things.
No, but being
so that
next
you
to,
don't.
Not being in a sexual relationship.
Not sexual, but even just being alone in a room with a woman. She's older than you. You have nothing in common. She's not. Something might actually in this relationality might awake. This is the idea of halacha. You're touching, you're shaking a hand, anything. This means that, there's some tension that is relational between all genders. But when we're talking about your wife and your husband, it is where you want to really let that tension express itself, which is a different thing, I think.
It's also fascinating that when you're single, as a man, you have to be mekabel. From your teacher, from your rav, from your mashpia. Then, when you become adult, then you have to become the mashpia to your wife. So men should be able to understand what a mekabel feels like, because when they were talmidim, they were mekabel. Whereas the woman, when she's a talmid, she is mekabel, and she gets married, she's a mekabel, and for the rest of her life, she's a mekabel. Much easier to be a woman.
I think I heard Rabbi Shai Staub saying, I think I find it easy to identify with my wife because I'm someone else's wife, because I'm God's wife and I'm her husband. So it's this relationality. We say it also in the book. Like, why would a woman trust a man? Why would I give everything I have to? Why would I give away my security, my confidence to you? So you need to understand who is he giving his confidence to. So who is he being mekabel from? If he's being mekabel from a worthy source, hopefully God, hopefully Torah, which is what a Jew should do, then you know, so I'm receiving from him, but he's receiving from something that I completely trust. Therefore, I trust him.
I want to connect to something you said before about only when you meet your wife, you understand the kind of man you are or your manhood. But some people look at dating as a work interview. Like, you should present yourself as, this is what I do, this is my CV. So now let's see if I'm accepted, because the the relationship by the Torah is that the man should present himself towards the woman and chase her and flirt and, marry her. Yeah, but we should chase her and we should be more of being there and, being doing things. And she should just look from the side and say, okay, not okay. He proposed, not we decided together. He proposed. So how can
she decides?
Yeah, but how can you find your manhood only after you got married and not before? So how can you present yourself? How can you be accepted to the marriage?
The dating process, as described in the book, has also been hijacked. It's a horrible process. It's mean, it's selfish, it's hurtful, it's not healthy. The whole dating world is an unhealthy world, and so many people suffer from it. But with your wife, that's where you have to be your man. With any other relationship, you don't have to be masculine. You can be neutral. With your friends, you're neutral. But with a wife, you have to be masculine. To the feminine, you have to be masculine. To the masculine, a woman has to be feminine. In every other area, doesn't matter.
הרבה מכם שאלתם אותי לגבי מעשר כספים וגם לגבי סעיף 46. אנחנו כרגע עובדים על סעיף 46, אבל הדבר היותר מעניין זה ששאלתי את הרב שרקי לגבי מעשר כספים, והוא אמר לי שכמובן אפשר לתרום חלק ממעשר הכספים לפודקאסט על המשמעות. אז מי שזה מעניין אותו ומי שרוצה לתמוך בעשייה הציבורית שלנו, מוזמן לתמוך גם במעשר כספים או לשאול את הרב שלכם. So, what are the problems in dating? I guess most of our viewers know that dating is you date, maybe after the first date you go to drink a coffee, you go upstairs, maybe afterwards he shadows, he doesn't answer the phone anymore, maybe you do it in a few more dates afterwards, but what is the dating that you're criticizing here?
The dating has become like a temporary marriage or a trial marriage. It's a meaningful relationship, but not a marriage. It's not here nor there. So you get all the pain and hurt as if you were married and none of the benefits of being married. Dating is supposed to be a few meetings to decide whether this could be a marriage. That's not what happens anymore. Now it's, can we have a relationship for a few years? Then we'll think marriage, not marriage, maybe. It's an artificial life. And the truth of the matter is, if you want to get down to the real issue, we are probably the loneliest generation in history. People are so alone. You leave your family very early, at an early age. You're on your own. You don't really want to be committed to anybody else. So you play this dating game. Now you're in a relationship with this one, then you're in a relationship with that one. What is a relationship? You don't really know. But every night when you come home, you're completely alone in the world. And that is miserable. You're not supposed to be alone.
We're alone because we don't want to obligate? This is the main reason?
We do want, but we're afraid.
Why?
Because we don't know what it is. See, the question is like this. You're male and you're female and you want to have a relationship. Why? Why do you want to have a relationship? Live your own life and leave other people alone. Why are you starting up with people? So other than for sexual reasons, which you don't have to be a man and a woman, why do men and women need each other? For what? In other words, why do we get married? Nobody ever says. You reach a certain age and say, so you're married? Why do I have to be married? No one ever explained it. Nobody ever told me. Nobody ever... Yeah, you're supposed to get married. Why? What is marriage?
Elad would say it's intuition, All the lad.
You mean as a child?
I mean, yeah, like the older lad, the
It's
child.
interesting because they say you only get your godly soul after age 13 onwards. But on the other hand, it's like when you're a kid, a very young, tender age, it's like you already have that code of the soul telling you what to do. So it's on one hand, the soul is actually more intensified in a younger age. On the other hand, they say that the soul only comes after bar mitzvah.
It's what happens to your Yetzer Hara that changes, really. Before bar mitzvah, or before 12, or it keeps getting younger and younger. Before the Yetzer Hara kicks in, your Yetzer Hara is innocent. You don't want to kill anybody. You don't want to abuse anybody. Your Yetzer Hara is still innocent. And in that innocence, you feel what's true. So, the book is really multi-purpose. It tells you what is male and female. It tells you what is marriage. It tells you what is intimacy, right? I mean, all of these are issues that
Dating.
big issues. And nobody says anything.
You said in a different interview that people are less and less attracted to sex and more to pornography. Isn't it like two sides of the same thing? You said before that pornography for men is more about themselves and less about to give. So we are less and less attracted to sex because we don't want to give. We are more focused on ourselves.
That's men's problem. Women are also losing interest. So yeah, I think that sex without intimacy, sex without purpose, doesn't last. And that's how the Romans, for example, became extinct. Nobody killed them. They just died out because they lost interest in intimacy. They stopped being intimate. So, of course, there were no babies. So they disappeared. With all the noise that the media makes about human sexuality, sex is not popular anymore, except in the media. A good example. Somebody was doing a survey, and he stops a man on the street, and he says, "We're doing a survey. How often do men think of sex in a day?" This one guy said, "I don't know, because you keep asking me. If you didn't ask me about sex, I don't know how many times I would think about it. If you didn't have all the billboards and all the posters and all the movies and all the advertisements and all, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't think about sex at all. It's so artificial." So we've distorted even the most biologically natural function. Even that we can't get right without the wisdom of the Torah.
Actually, it's kind of weird because when I was in the army for a few days and I didn't see any commercial. I see only the desert and the tanks and the grenades. And I know that I thought about women lots of the time without seeing anyone,
But more or less than when you were in town?
I guess more. But you know, the Torah also talks about the holiness of the army camp, which really puts to the extreme thinking about things that are not good for you. And this is because of that. You have to be more holy in the army base. You know, people curse more, people behave in a brutal manner, even in day-to-day, in training, not in front of the enemy.
Yeah, it's very easy to become corrupted by army activity. And that's why you have to make a special effort. But the truth is, the natural truth is that sex is not necessary for human life. You can go without sex for a long time and it doesn't do any harm. And that's why you can't satisfy sexuality. It's never enough. It's like chocolate. You don't need it, and you can never have enough. It goes together. If you don't need it, then you can't satisfy it. Intimacy, you can't live without. If you're not deeply connected to another human being, you're going to get sick. You're not going to live long. It's a necessary thing in human existence. So when you take all the intimacy out of the sex becomes a burden.
Actually, I experienced this phenomenon myself because as a Dr. Ben Elul, I also came from a secular family, and in the pop culture and like in all of the aspects of the culture, they told me that once you have like your desires fulfilled with women, this is like the main goal for you. So in Israel, people are more conservative. When I was a child, I think they were more conservative. It was hard to be with a woman. It wasn't that easy. So I fly to the USA. I was in a summer camp. And then it was so easy. It was so intense. And after about a month, I totally, it couldn't be less attractive. I just went to my cabin. I've been on my own. I read, I studied, did all kind of things. And people knocked on my door and told me, hey, come be with us. I mean, women. And I'm like, no, it doesn't interest you anymore once you have more than enough. And I think that this is one of the crucial points in life where I looked at myself deep inside and I said, okay, so if I'm not happy right now when all of my desires got fulfilled, so maybe life has a different meaning. I should search in elsewhere.
Yeah, so look what happens. Men who think that being a man means having sex with a lot of women, all of a sudden they don't want to. And they think, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I got to go to a doctor. I got to go for therapy. I need pills. No, you're just bored. That can't be. No, can't be. You got to have sex. If you're normal and healthy, you have to have sex. A whole week you didn't. There's something wrong with you. So now they're starting to suffer fake psychological issues. You're just bored with sex. There's nothing wrong with you. But intimacy is different. When you have intimacy, you are really satisfied.
Do you use the word intimacy only in the relationships between a man and a woman, a husband and wife, or as a general term for intimacy with a good friend?
There's no closeness like a husband and a wife. So to not be alone, only marriage. If you have a very good relationship with your mother and father, you're still alone.
And
that's why Al Ken Yazov Ish, right? Es Aviv es Imo.
So, because of your busy schedule, I would ask a last question about the role of kids, the role of the children. We know that in the Western culture and Western rich countries, people don't bring kids anymore. And here in Israel, you just go outside and bump into 3 or 4 or 5 kids. What's the main difference what's the main reason for the West not to bring kids anymore to the world?
A number of reasons. First of all, we grow up with so little information about life that we're afraid to take responsibility. Most people don't have children because they're afraid that they don't know what to tell children. If a kid asks, why am I here? What am I going to tell him? Because we had sex? What am I going to tell him? What is the purpose of life? I don't know. So I'm afraid to have children. In fact, one of the differences between a healthy, traditional society and modern society, in a traditional society, children can't wait to grow up and become mommies and daddies. And in this society, we're terrified of growing up because we don't understand life. We can't handle life. So bringing life, having children, scary.
So actually for me, it's really weird that those devastating ideas got spread so intensively and that people actually believe them. Because for me, as a believing Jew, raising kids, I don't know, it's a big responsibility, it is, but it's fun. It's kind of simple. You have a goal and you have a vector, right? You should live up to your ideals or to the ideals of the Torah, but this is like this in all spheres of life. It's not only with children, and children actually makes you much more happy to live. You have a purpose and you have a responsibility, and by your first book, לא ביקשתי לבוא לעולם, or in English, I didn't ask to be born, so this is your purpose in life, to do your obligations and with your talent that God gave you.
The greatest success in life is that your children want to be like you.
Yeah, my kids, my old kid said that he wanted to have a podcast. So, yeah, maybe mission accomplished, but he's only 5. I should live up to the ideal that he wants to be like me when he will be
You should
older.
open it now. It will be a really interesting one.
If your children want to be like you, it means you have a life that is appealing to them. A career is not appealing. So children don't always want to be in their parents' profession. Unless it's a noble profession, something to admire, something to... But if you don't have a life that your children can't wait to join, you're doing something wrong.
All of us are really blessed, I think, but by a profession that is fulfilling our whole lives, and that we can't really, I think, all of us can't really define job and mission and meaning, and like it's all combined.
Yeah, the Rebbe gave us a mission to be shluchim, to serve the community, to help the Jewish community. I have 14 children. They're all in
the business.
In the business.
In the family business.
Yeah. In different ways, different places, but...
What chance do they have? They're your kid. Where can they go?
So you're here in Israel. We're now in May 8th. And what are you up to in Israel?
So tomorrow, the rabbi is going to give a workshop for couples. 15 couples are going to come, and they're going to learn about the dynamics of Mashpia Mekabel in both the intimate and the daily life. Just re-understand their entire relationship through the idea of Mashpia Mekabel. So that's a workshop. In the evening, we're doing a book launch for the To Win a War book in Hebrew. So it's a small booklet, but it has everything you need to know about the war. And I think it's going to be very interesting for soldiers, for politicians, for leaders, for social. And it's going to be a meeting of the rabbi with Orit Mark Ettinger, really inspiring woman that's taking an amazing mission in this time. So they're going to kind of talk about the mission of Israel and the Jewish people at this day and age. And on Monday, there's an event in the Memorial Eve where the rabbi is going to meet two mothers of hostages in Gaza. But these are not just...
We're not meeting in Gaza.
No, hopefully not.
Let's hope Gaza will be safe and you can move it down.
They have amazing beaches, apparently. So, no, it's in Ramat Gan. But the mothers are, there's many parents of hostages, unfortunately. These two, what's special about them is that they read the book, they are part of the community, they are part of the learning, and so they live it up. So on the one hand, they are living the worst nightmare, but on the other hand, they are in tune with their godly mission at this point. So they're going to talk.
Amazing. So have a great success in your mission, Rabbi Friedman and Dr. Ben Elul, and thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Everyone's invited to those events.
Yeah, we will put a link down below the YouTube channel, and you can sign up. Thank you
so much.